Now what we need to do is pull, this is our thermometer well. This is our outage gauge, sample line valve. Sample line valve is where we sniff rotary and where we get our pressure reading from. This is non-pressurized, always pressurized. So if you open this up and nothing comes out, something's wrong. If you open either of these up and anything comes out, something is wrong. So we're gonna back it off, and while you're backing it off, you just listen and see if it's pressured up or not. There's two things that form the seal. One is this little O-ring right here, and the other is inside the cap. They just make a seal, just to keep the worst of the stuff out. Now we're going to do this one. They're supposed to be hand tight, no more than hand tight. It's common for these things to come in where you have to use a wrench. And then this has got 3 gauges on it. Got a propane, condensate, butane. Some of them will only have one. They may say condensate or butane or propane if it's just one, but if you only got one, you only got one. But this is going to be black. There's a magnet. This, I'll show you. There's a magnet right there. There's a steel donut that floats up and down on the outside of this. And that steel donut floats on top of the liquid level. So when you pull this up, see, this will, as it comes up, it'll mag where that steel donut is. And then that'll give you a good idea of where your height is on your liquid. This is supposed to be full of, or having glycol antifreeze in it. It needs like 6 to 12 inches in it. If it's got some in there, you're good. If it has nothing in there, then you take this off and put it right back. It's supposed to mag. See right there, and see how we go in descending order? It looks like it's 22 1/4, but it's actually 21 3/4. So we don't trust anything the first time out. We do it again. And it's about 22 almost. Do it again, 22 1/2. Let's do it again. 22 1/4. That seems to be our most consistent number. We'll call it 22 1/4. Now we're going to go drop our thermometer. You lower a thermometer in. You do not just drop it and let it hit bottom. This chain is around 8 feet long. You got like a 12-inch long armor. Got about 9 feet. Now we're in there. Now we're just going to sit. We leave it in there at least 3 minutes. Normally what I do is I do what I can on readings, and I go do the next ones, and I just keep my thermometers in there, and then I come back in reverse order and finalize my reading. Now what we're going to do, we're going to pull plug. If you see, this is stainless steel, carbon steel. When these things came from the factory, they installed, I don't know why they thought it would work, but some brainiac put stainless steel plugs in a stainless steel valve. Stainless steel into stainless steel invariably is a bad mix, and that's what happened. These were getting stripped out all the time, all over the country. These things were getting stripped out. So they switched over, and their initial fix is to put a carbon steel plug. And some of these jag-offs that load these cars will drive these plugs in so tight that a 12-inch crescent wrench can't even pull them out. There's no point in it. This is supposed to be finger tight. Maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. The last several hundred that I've done, and I mean several hundred, These have been in so tight, you have to get a 10-inch or 12-inch crescent wrench on the end just to break them loose. Maybe this one won't be so bad. Shit! All right, this one's bad. 100 pounds. The biggest thing we're doing with this is we want to make sure that we have propane in this car. Well, if it's butane, we crack that open, we would not even have 50 psi. We would be really low, probably in the 20 pound, 25 pound range would be my initial guess if this was butane. If this had any other contaminants put in or some other product, we could easily be 150, 180 psi. And so that's an initial tell. We're letting that give us some information, not just what the pressure is, but whether we should be alerted to whether or not there's something in this car other than just commercial propane. So now we got that done. Now we're going to crack this open. We're going to smell for odorant. Yeah, it stinks. It stinks pretty good. So now I'm going to put that back. If I were to offload this car today, I would not put the plug back in. I would start hooking it up because I'd be offloading it. We're going to hook up one of these cars today just to show you the whole hookup process and the whole disconnect process, but we're not going to actually physically offload anything today. So we want to just keep everything safe, so we're just going to draw that back in. That's going to be good enough. Let's go over here and I'll show you about the whole process of taking car readings. There's certain information we need to get from each and every car. Easiest way I found to do it is you either have to use a pencil and paper or use your smartphone and go to notes and put it all on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the car number, and if you'll remember that from when I did car readings, that's one's got the faded lettering on both sides, and it's also one's got the broken welds down there on the end platform. I didn't want to get this car this early. I wanted to wait another week or two, but they wanted to send this car to a shop, so I'm bringing it over now and we're going to offload it. So we're going to get down the car number, GATX 204511. Then you get the water capacity in US gallons, 641. And then on your notes, we'll put down what information we know. We said 22¼ inches on the outage. And we know we have 100 pounds of pressure. Only thing we have yet to get is our temperature. And these are the readings that we'll take that we'll use to calculate our volume. I got this reading. Here's another thing you want to look for. You want to make sure that this end isn't damaged. You want to make sure this isn't bent anywhere. That's a common thing. These things get bent. Another thing that's common, well, I take it back, it happens, is this thing may fail to mag. Like I said, it float. There's a donut that goes up and down. If that donut gets a pinhole in it, when this thing's got liquid, that little pinhole will allow liquid propane to get inside there, and that donut will just sink down to the bottom of the gauge, and this won't mag anywhere. If that's the case, all you can do is document. You take what readings you can, you document it, and you send it in to the people that sent you the cars. And if these are damaged in any way, document it. Because we got to do something, and I've had them come in where this whole end is busted off. So what I do is I'll wrap this real heavy with tape at the top so that it can't fall all the way to the bottom. Because if this thing falls all the way to the bottom, the car's got to go to a shop, and then they can extract it and charge everybody accordingly. But if it's just bent or got a crease in it, take a picture of it, send it in, just document its condition so nobody can come back and say you did it. So now that we're done with that, we want to put it down so we don't damage it. You want to get the kink out of the chain, and then we're going to oil this up. That's just, we don't need this being all rusty and tough, because this all is supposed to go on hand tight. That's it, no more. Now we're going to pull this, and then look at this, and I'll give you an idea of how deep your antifreeze is. So we'll take it and we'll spin it around. It's a little tough to see the mercury, but we are sitting at 52 degrees. So I'm gonna go hang this up, let it drain in the holder. That was actually had a good level of the antifreeze in it. We're just going to top it off just a little bit. You want that well to be about 2/3 full or a little bit fuller. You don't need it to bring it all the way to the top. You'll just end up wasting antifreeze. And then a little bit here. Doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to try to lubricate the threads and that O-ring. Same thing, you want to keep this as unkinked up as possible. That's it. Now, before I leave and forget my numbers, I'm going to add my temperature in here, 52. I got all that information saved. For now, this is good enough. We're going to close this lid. As a rule, you got to watch these lids. This one is an older car. This lid is not that heavy. It doesn't have any springs in here. Average car lid is about 140, 145 pounds. So you really kind of got to be careful. All this stuff is pretty heavy. You just always got to be aware of your fingers, be aware of what you're doing, and it's just like walking around here. I have a protected area, and the size of the area really varies depending on the car. Here's my operating range. This chain, this rail, this safety cage. This safety cage, better than nothing, but it's also one of those things, it's not meant to be a replacement for you paying attention. Be aware. One of the nice things about this safety cage is if you're doing something here and you touch it, anywhere, any part of your back, your body touches this, you know you're at your limit. Never push it. Never push it. You see, this is supposed to have a grit, some sort of a grip. There's all different kinds. If this thing is really missing big patches, which is not uncommon, like this one's missing this gets really slick in the rain and in the winter. Take a picture of it, document it, send it in. What I prefer to do is in decent weather, if I get a car that's got bald patches with no grit, I'll paint them and I'll put grit in, and then I'll just re-grit it myself. Simply because I don't want to slip. I don't want the next guy to slip. And part of the problem of what goes on is we just keep saying it's somebody else's problem, because we're all sick and tired of having to clean up somebody else's mess or spend our money and time and effort. I get that. But, you know, we're working on these cars too, and we do it for our own safety. But take a picture of it, and if that car is going into a shop soon, like this one, If this one was really worn out, hopefully that'd be something the shop could go and deal with. So, always watch, try to control your car, your lid coming down. There are some guys that just get it going and let it go. I prefer to control it as long as you don't do anything that really puts a force or a strain on your back or your shoulders. Same thing when you go to open it. You can throw these. If you throw it hard enough, though, you saw how it bounced, that thing can do that and come right back down and close on you. Just try to do what you do in as safe, as smooth, as controlled a manner as possible. It's not a speed contest, it's not a strength competition. You're just taking readings and you're going to do it as smartly and as efficiently as possible. Now, I'm done with this. I'm going to leave that chain put away. And now we're going to pick up our ramp. Just line it up between my hoses. Want to make sure that catches. And you can tell, you know, that latch is going to hold this gangway up. If we're ever under threat of a very serious windstorm, but more likely ice is our biggest threat. If there's a risk of ice and wind putting force on this and possibly causing this thing to lower itself, the way you prevent that, take your adjusting chain, lower it, and do that. Now, even if this latch were to let go, that's it. Can't go any farther. I don't do that. We don't do that every single day. We only do it when the threat of weather indicates that we should. And notice again, it's all set up the same way. It's all set up the same way. All four of them. Now, like I said, we just look around, looking for obvious stuff. Now, before I actually get into that, don't want to take the picture after I cut it. Oh, you little bastard. See that? Somebody just beat it up. You see that? Somebody beat that over and bent that one up. That didn't help anything. You can tell over here, this thing's bound up against this other dog ear over here. That's a problem. These cars have a rough life. Same thing, we want to check, make sure this is okay. Same thing, we just look around. This is a bit of a mess, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad compared to other things. There's my weep hole for my relief. It's clear. None of these are broken. Nuts are still there. Everything looks fine. Fine enough to start. So we'll Same thing, back this off. And like I said, as you're backing it off, you just listen. 99 point whatever percent of these cars, these do not leak. These do not leak. But every once in a while you'll get one. And if you're not listening, you won't be prepared for it. And you could run the risk of injury. That chain was a little tight. Now we're going to go drop our thermometer. Same thing, what are we gonna do? Oh, yeah, pin slightly bent too. Well, we gotta do something with this pin, so let's just do that. Nothing in there. See if we can get that out. Let's put some, usually a full bottle will do it, but this is just a partial bottle, but it'll work just fine. It's enough. And sometimes just a little bit of oil will get you past that O-ring right there. Good. Yep, there we go. See, this one, it's only got one measurement area. And so that one there is about 21 1/4. So let's take it again. 21 3/4. 21 1/2. That sounds about right. Let's call that one 21 1/2. Sounds good enough to me. Then this is pretty well oiled, so there's no need to add any oil to that one. Done, no more, no tighter than that. Now this is going to be interesting. They put most of the threads, they threaded most of those threads in. Hopefully this won't be so bad. Nope, not so bad. See this cheap ass chain? It's just cheap as hell. They break, they snap. It is just a piss poor design. Whoever came up with this, they don't know. They don't work for a living, that's for certain. See if this one, yeah, that one worked. 100 pounds. Can't really, yeah, I can smell it now. That stinks. Yep, that stinks. And these things, they cover them with Teflon tape. They get up in here, and this thing doesn't spin for hardly nothing. And come bitter weather, you almost always have to take your gloves off to put these on. It's just a dumbass design. And it's designed to fail, and it's designed to break. No matter what they say, that's what they designed it to do. So we're gonna go get the car numbers off the end of this car. Oh, another thing, I stood here, I've looked at this twice. Turn right around and look at that. It's a rock, not uncommon. I used to have a pile of rocks down at one of these towers. I just accumulated them to see how many. And I got about 30-40 rocks, anywhere from that big to that big, laying on top of a cars coming in. So you don't want to leave anything up here that can cause a hazard to you or anybody else. And we're the only ones in the yard, so we'll get rid of it. Don't need an accident, don't need a problem. So now let's step over and go get a car number. And GATX 245. Water capacity 33743. Then I said my outage was what, 21.5. 100 psi was pressure. Now we got to get this thermometer or temperature reading off of that. All right, let's get that. Yeah, this one's pretty low on. Yeah, there's no antifreeze in that one. And we're going to call that 52 degrees. When you go to hold this to read it, don't grab this end. This is your bulb end on the thermometer. That's what's going to get your readings. If you hold this, you'll watch and you'll start raising your temperature up. But just kind of roll it around to where you can try to read that. It's really tough in the rain to read these, but you'll figure it out. You'll get the hang of it pretty well. And 51 degrees, 52 degrees, 53 degrees, being off by a degree or two is not a deal breaker. We just basically want to know what it is so we can do our calculation. So now we got to add antifreeze to this one. It might be 2/3 full. Add just a little bit of oil to that. This is why we save our compressor oil. That's the oil we use. It's just used compressor oil for all of our work up here. And then just one last glance before you close the lid. You just want to make sure everything's right where you want it. Now we're going to do the other two. All right, we're going to go down to my car here on Tower 1. One thing I want you to look at real quick is this is an opportunity now for us to find other problems. Right there's my car number on top of this car. It needs to match the one down there. It's tough to see here, but we'll confirm it on the end. It's rare, I mean rare, that the car numbers are wrong. It's happened twice here. So it's one of the things to keep in mind. That it's not required to have a number on the top, but if it has a number on the top, it's got to match all the others. Your biggest time it doesn't match is if this car gets sold and a new owner changes the prefix lettering from, say, CBTX to an NBTX, and they forget to change the top one. That's usually the most common thing. So now I'm going to drop this. Here's your opportunity to adjust your gangway. That's not too bad. And here's where you adjust your gap on the end. You really, that's not that bad. But we can shorten that, and that's why we have this. Just take it at an angle, push it forward, and you got this peg there. Drop it in one of the grooves, can't go anywhere. See this kind of a latch? Somebody put that on there. It is garbage. But it's one of the things we got to put up with, what they do. I'll get my go bag now. Same thing. We're just going to take a quick walk around. We're just looking for the obvious. And you'll learn that every refinery has their own type of seal. You'll learn to anticipate and or possibly dread the car coming in based on its seal. This one's not so bad either. We do have some trash. This is not acceptable. This old seal is not acceptable. We just get them out. It's not bad enough to report this car, not for this. Same thing now, we're going to be looking for this. There's a weep hole right over here. It's open. Everything looks decent. I'm going to go ahead and take readings on this car. All right, same thing as before. One thing I didn't really mention, talk too much on, was your footing, your body posture. You're on top of a car, try to keep your center of gravity. Try to keep it to where you're always kind of, a little bit on the forward side. You always watch where your feet are put and where you are in relation to your surroundings. So same thing now, we're going to take off this. Oh, shit! No, we're not taking that one off. Let's get this one off. There we are. Somebody just took it down. See all that garbage? That's just junk. That's just a poorly maintained piece of equipment. Now this one, hopefully that's not so bad. That's good. And somebody actually kind of lubricated that one. That's good shape. Let's take a look here. Everything's decent on that end. I've only got 2 gauges of butane and a propane. Let's go up. 21.5. Probably end up around 22. Look at that, around 22. 21 3/4, right at 22 though. I think we're going to call this one 22, and we'll be accurate enough. And before I drop the thermometer, we're going to check this pressure on our sample line valve. See, here's a perfect example. Stainless steel plug and a stainless steel valve with a cheap ass chain. Terrible design. Oh gosh, oh my gosh. That one's driven in there. How big of a dumbass do you have to be to drive a 1/4 inch pipe plug in that hard? My goodness. If you have to drive it in that hard to keep it from leaking, send the thing to a shop instead of passing the problem on down to somebody else. Yeah, don't need it tight, tight, tight. Oh gosh. Oh shit. Well, we're about 105. It's about what we expected. So the other two were 100 pounds of pressure and they were 52 degrees. This is 105. We should be right around 52. That's what we should be expecting. And there's certain things you mentally can expect. And so if I were to get an aberrant temperature reading, then I know there's probably a problem and I might need to start sending some emails. But my outage was close to the same as the others. My pressures were close to the same, so my temperature should be close to the same. So those are just things we tend to anticipate. Yeah, that stinks. All right, I'll drop the thermometer and then we'll go to another car. All right, that's it. We're gonna go do another car while this sits. All right, we're gonna go do this. We'll be dropping readings on our fourth and last car. Same thing, we'll get this open. See that? Some lazy person left it. I don't care how much you're paid. I don't care what your job is. Have some pride in what you do. That's what's expected here. Have pride in what you do. Clean up after yourself. And we'll walk around. Look. Take my card reader, seal. Get off of there. And I want that car number. Same thing, we just look for the obvious stuff. Just looking for problems. Here we are. Overall, just like the others, it's not that bad. This we can kind of clean up a little bit, make it not so ugly. But there's no, I'm not going to dig it out of that hole, simply because it's down the hole, it's not a threat. Here on my relief valve, there's my drain. You always look in here. In the winter time, if you ever see ice in here, that is an immediate warning that there is something seriously wrong. This thing should not be holding water, should not be allowed to freeze. And so that's why we check it. You can tell by looking, you can see it over here. Look at all the rust, the surface rust inside here. At one point or another, this relief valve has been retaining water. But fortunately the drain is open. I can see that clearly right through there. So we're good. Now let's see if we can get this. Yeah, it's not so bad. Not so bad. No noise, no hissing. That needs, let's check that. Yeah, that's got plenty of antifreeze in it. And for now, I've already showed you how to take the readings on the other three. we're not going to film taking the readings on this. So we'll just end this right here.